welcome back. Today's going to be a Kolsch day. So, this, you've heard me talk about it before, it is the easiest all-grain beer to brew. There's no multiple grains being milled and added. It's just one grain Pilsner and it's 9 pounds. And then it's Hallertau hops and tradition hops. The tradition go in for 60 minutes. The Hallertau's the last 10 minutes of the boil. And then it's a Kolsch yeast, and I use the liquid Kolsch yeast. I haven't found a dry yeast for Kolsch yet, but if I do, I would probably switch over to that just because the shelf life is better as far as how long you can hang on to it without having to worry. The liquid yeasts, I think once you get beyond 6 months, you're probably taking a little bit of a chance as far as how effective they're going to be during fermentation. So I've got the strike water going right now. I've got to get it up to about 168 degrees, and then I'm going to dump about 4 1/4 gallons down into the mash tun. I'm going to add the 9 pounds of grain. We're going to be on an hour wait. Then we'll come back, we'll have to sparge it like we always do. And then once we get everything into the boil kettle, you know, it's just the same as doing a kit beer once you get into the boil kettle. So everything's set, I've milled the grain, just got to wait for the temp to get up. And again, today's a little bit cool in here, so you know, I kept the grain inside to try and keep everything kind of constant. Once you start messing around with things like cold grain and cold mash tuns and everything else, and all of a sudden your numbers, if you're using Beersmith, get a little bit funny unless you want to go in and alter everything as far as like your mash tun temperatures, your grain temperatures, all of that. And I don't really like to mess around with that much, because then you have to remember to kind of go back and switch things around again. So anyway, that's it. Let's get started. Okay, we've got, it was actually just a hair over 3 gallons of water at 168 into the mash tun. And all we're going to do now is get the grain in there and hopefully do it without any dough balls. It's a little awkward for me because I am a righty. I'm doing things a little left-handed now. Again, all this is 9 pounds of Pilsner grain. And if you're going to introduce people to homebrew that haven't had it before, this is a good one to start them on. It's a mild beer. I guess in order of the ones that I do, I would probably start with if you had a Honey Weiss or the light ale that I make, those would probably be the first two I'd start with. The Kolsch has kind of a distinct flavor due to the yeast, the Kolsch yeast, and the hops. So it's still what I would consider to be a mild beer, but it has more of an aftertaste than the other two. So if someone's, you know, coming from a standard domestic beer and they like to drink lighter side beers, those two would be ideal, but this would be you know, a close third to that. There isn't anything about the flavor that they're going to find objectionable. It just isn't going to be what they're used to. It's going to be just a hair stronger in flavor. Okay, we are going to go on an hour rest now with this. Just have a little bit left to get in. So once this is covered, we'll go an hour and then we'll be ready to sparge. This should really be sitting with a you know, a steeping temperature of 152. Hopefully we're near that. It is, as I said, a little bit cool in here today, but you know, everything's worked out so far with brewing in, you know, cooler weather, so this should be okay too. All right. back in an hour. All right, and just a quick look at the mash tun temperature. We're right at 152, so we're good. Back in an hour. All right, so what we're gonna do now, it's been an hour. We're gonna get our first runnings. What we're trying to do here is just clear up the wort coming down to the boil kettle. As you can see right there's a bunch of grain that came out, and it's gonna be that way for a minute. The real plan here is to get everything so that it's running nice and clear. And then once that happens, then we just move on to the sparge step. We leave the wort running slowly down into the brew kettle, and we have water flushing over the grain bed. Now, it's clearing up pretty fast, and I think that's usually the case with the Pilsner grain. I've had it clear up pretty fast. So, see this? Probably. Yeah, there's like no grain coming out. Now I had quite a bit to start with, and now I'm getting absolutely nothing. So that is a really good sign. I'll let it run just a little bit longer, and then I will take the first runnings, drop them back over the grain bed. And the reason I have the spoon out is I like to put it back in with it kind of hitting the spoon first so that it disperses it and it doesn't create a hole in the grain bed that's going to create grain coming through again down the tube into the boil kettle. So that's it. We'll be back when it's time to sparge. Okay, we are sparging at this point, and you can see there is wort running in slowly into the brew kettle. And then we'll just come up a hair, and you can see that it's actually dropping down in to the mash tun over the grain bed. Now, ideally what you'd like to have is about 1 inch to 2 inches of hot water over your grain bed. You don't want it to get higher than that, but 2 inches, 1 inch to 2 inches is just fine. And then you really want this whole process to take, you'd like to target about an hour so that you can, slowly extract all that sugar. And again, you don't want a rapid flow, because all you're going to do is create a vacuum there under your grain bed, and you'll either get a stuck sparge where nothing's coming out, or you start to pull a lot of grain through. So target about an hour and keep an eye on things, and you should be good. So we'll be back when it's time to start the boil. All right, as you can see, the boil is going. And this is the time where we're going to add the Tradition hops, 1 ounce, and that'll be for 60 minutes. I'm going to just dial the heat down a hair here. So you can see it's getting pretty rapid. The problem with that is you can get a boil over, and don't think it can't happen to you, because it can happen fast. And when it does, it's like walking on cough syrup. It's a mess to clean up off everything. Still a little high. Okay. So we're going to go for 60 minutes now. And actually after 40 minutes I'll throw the chiller in. And after 50 minutes I'll be throwing in the second set of hops, which is 1 ounce of the Hersbrucker Hallertau hops. And that'll be it for the hops additions. And this one again goes for the whole hour boil. The second set, the Hersbrucker, are going to go only for the last 10 minutes. Now, if you've ever done the Brewer's Best Kolsch, you'll notice that, and I noticed their hops are different. I'm not sure why, but I'm telling you, that is a great kit beer. I would say it tastes every bit as good as the all grain, and has a great flavor to it. It's nice, and a little bit easier, obviously, to make than delving into all grain. So if you're looking for a Kolsch alternative to all grain, I definitely recommend the Brewer's Best Kolsch kit. But that being said, let's let this go for the next 50 minutes, and then when we come back, we'll throw in the second set of hops. All right, 10 minutes left in the boil. So we are gonna put in the Hersbrucker Hallertauer hops, and that's just 10 minutes. And that'll be the end of the boil. And then I'm gonna fire this thing down, and we'll start the chiller. And if it is like yesterday, if the water's as cold as it was yesterday, it'll be chilled down in about 20 minutes, and we'll be ready to run it into the pail, into the fermentation pail. So we'll be back when it's in the pail. Okay, time to aerate the wort. It chilled down in about 25 minutes, and from 210, 212 degrees down to 70. So that's pretty good. And now I'm just trying to add just a little oxygen in here. You can see I'm not really throwing a lot in there. It's just a little. Now, this is a nice to do, it's not a have to do. I know a lot of people will take their carboys or pails and shake them a little bit to get some air in there for the yeast, and that works certainly fine. Okay, I'll throw the cap and airlock on and back for a little follow-up. I suppose it would help first to actually add the yeast. And this is the Y yeast, Kolsch 2565. Just dump it in, and now throw the lid and the airlock on, and we're done. Come back in a couple seconds and do a little follow-up. Well, that's it. She's put away. I'm sure that it's going to start to ferment within 12 hours. Most of my stuff does. Sometimes even faster with the Y yeast, liquid yeast. I'll get stuff popping in about 3 hours. We'll see. Sweet chocolate stout. This is a great beer. Don't let the darkness fool you. It's got a very nice sweet finish because of some non-fermentable sugars in there. Cheers. Man, that's an awesome beer. That's one that's going to fool anyone that comes over if you brew it, because they'll look at it and say there's no way that I'm going to like it, and the minute they have it they'll be really surprised. So we'll see how these all turn out. I've got the honey weiss that's fermenting right now, and I have the Kolsch, which will start shortly. So about a month down the road, we'll go ahead and crack a bottle of each and see how they're doing. The next thing up is probably going to be another chocolate stout just to work it in there. I'm down to a case, and like I said, I have a buddy, Alan, who comes over and really likes it, so I like to have it on hand. So I'll brew up a case of that, and then I'm back on the honey weiss again, I think. I've got to build up some of these lighter beers because they're really in demand when people come over. It's rare that you get people that come over and want to try like an amber ale or a stout. At least that's the way it's been here. So hope you guys have a great week, a great homebrew Wednesday. Cheers. This has been a Matty Boy presentation. Say bye-bye, Matty. Bye-bye.